Millions of dead chickens, dying cats, feverish cows suffering from respiratory distress. These are the consequences of a mishandled response to the most recent outbreak of H5N1, aka the bird flu, according to Vanity Fair's reporter Katherine Eban. Now, the latest episode sprouted in Texas early last year, spreading to more than 324 dairy herds across 13 other states. As of this month, the Department of Agriculture reports 1,000 dairy herds have been infected and at least 67 humans.
Could the crisis have been contained with just a few phone calls within USDA? Eban says the politics of profits weighed more than public health. Here to break down her investigation is Katherine Eban. She is a special correspondent at Vanity Fair, covering medical and scientific affairs. Welcome, Katherine.
Great to be back with you. Nice to see you.
For sure. So one of the things I found most interesting in your piece was this argument you make, or simply perhaps fact that you state, about USDA having a dual purpose. On one hand, it is there to protect or at least maintain the safety of livestock and other animals. And on the other hand, it's there essentially to promote American agriculture and promote that business. You think, I believe, that those two things have sat in tension with each other in a very damaging way in this case.
Yeah, they absolutely have. I mean, there is a well-established playbook to respond to pandemics. Whether the government heeds it is another question entirely. But my investigation revealed that the USDA had essentially thwarted the government's response, slow-walked the response by refusing to move to a system of nationwide surveillance of dairy cows. That sort of, don't test, don't tell policy allowed the bird flu to cross state lines, infected cows to cross state lines, and has resulted in this just, out of control virus that has continued to mutate and puts us at risk of a larger pandemic, according to many of the experts that I interviewed for the story.
So what are the conflicting agendas at play that have caused such a mishandling?
Yeah, USDA basically oversees animal health on the nation's farms, but they also oversee the giant export agreements for poultry, dairy, and beef. And from everything that our reporting was able to gather, the dairy farmers did not want to disclose sick cows on their farms because they believed that it would impede their ability to sell their milk into the market. And so, the USDA essentially allowed them to run concerned veterinarians off their farms, to not disclose sick cows, and they passed a regulation with such a giant loophole that it was laughable, which was to say, if they want to move cows across state lines, they have to show tests that are virus-free for 30 cows. And often, the herds that they're moving can be in the hundreds or even larger than that. So, the whole thing, when I got in there to report, I was thinking James Herriot, all creatures great and small, nice, rural veterinarians happily, helping cows. And really, I found myself in the back room of the dairy industry with, farmers that just wanted to go dark, vets who were terrified to speak out because they were getting fired from their jobs, and USDA, which was basically covering for the dairy industry and thereby putting us all at risk.
To that point about USDA, Katherine, your piece does mention the fact that there was perhaps not an official gag order, but certainly a kind of chilling effect aimed at scientists within USDA. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, well, the way that the agricultural sector works is that you have state veterinarians and then you have USDA vets who are camped out in the states, who are functioning as the eyes and ears of the federal government. And any information that they glean from the farms as an early warning system is supposed to get pushed up to the USDA officials in Washington, D.C. And very early on in the pandemic, in the outbreak, almost inexplicably, the USDA put out this directive severing any contact between USDA officials and the folks in the states. So those are colleagues that are collaborating all the time and talking all the time. And basically, the USDA directed in memos that I obtained, no more contact. You know, so the idea that you're going to sever crucial contact for weeks at the beginning of an outbreak as the virus is spreading across state lines is really pretty extraordinary. And that's how we opened the story, is with that finding.
We are all in the wake of COVID, I think, as a society, so much more cognizant of and concerned about possibility for diseases to evolve, to jump from animals to humans, that kind of thing. What is the scientific danger or threat or fear right now for H5N1, given that there is a pandemic underway among animals?
Look, the more that this virus mutates, right, the more that it is allowed to move unchecked through the animal population, the greater the risk that it is going to learn how to spread to humans. Now, RFK Jr., who is the nation's health secretary, initially, proffered this idea, let's just sort of let it rip on dairy farms. And, experts were horrified by that suggestion, because you really can't do anything more to help a virus spread into the human population than to do just that. What you need is rigorous suppression of the virus. You also need to know where it's moving. That is why nationwide surveillance is so important. You need to turn on the Klieg lights, figure out where the virus is, and do your best to check the spread.
Katherine, thank you so much for joining us to discuss that. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Great to be on with you.
And coming up, does Kamala Harris want back into the White House, or does she have a whole new plan? Stay with us.